I want to tell you something I've never talked about on this channel before, or really much at all, except for with my writing friends. A few months ago, I walked away from a novel I was writing. It wasn't finished. My agent actually loved it, so I had the green light to go forward. She had editors lined up to see it. But I don't know, although I really loved the concept, I wasn't really pulled toward it anymore. So I stopped writing. I just couldn't bring myself to go there. The book was called The Rememberers, and I really believed it was going to be my next Ivy Cassidy novel. I was so excited about it. I had characters that I loved, Effie. I'd done a ton of research. I had an outline and a synopsis, and again, my agent loved it. I had chapters written. My proposal was ready to submit after the end of summer because everything shuts down in publishing in the summer. So everything was on track, exactly like I had planned it to be. But whenever I sat down to try and write, I ended up doing something else. I was like the mouse in the kids' book, Give a Mouse a Cookie. I would answer emails or work on book covers for clients or spend, an afternoon out at the cottage, which by the way, I'm recording from. I am in my cottage. I would water the flowers. I would organize a drawer that totally maybe did need organizing. The point is, I would do pretty much anything except for work on that story, The Rememberers. So, have you ever noticed how productive with other things you become when you suddenly are avoiding the thing you are supposed to be doing? That was me. I was getting a lot done, just none of it had to do with my writing project. And I really did want to work on it. I really want to write my next Ivy Cassidy book. So at first, I told myself I was okay, I was procrastinating. And then I wondered if I was burned out. And then I had this thought that honestly kind of scared me a little bit. I thought after writing more than 35 novels, had I lost it? Sounds dramatic now, but when you're in the middle of something like that, those thoughts feel really, really real. Then I went to the North Carolina mountains, Beach Mountain, with two writing friends. And during that weekend, I realized that I had been asking myself the wrong question the entire time. And that realization shifted things for me. It wasn't just about writing that book, it was the way I was thinking about my stories. Basically, if your story isn't working, there is a pretty good chance that you're diagnosing the wrong problem, whatever that might be. And I definitely had. So let's figure out what was really going on. Here's what made the whole experience so confusing to me. It wasn't that I didn't want to write, because I did. I wanted to write all the time. Ideas were showing up. I'd be driving somewhere, I'd be in the garden watering the flowers, I'd be painting a door in here, and I'd think, oh, that's cool. I like that idea. So it definitely wasn't writer's block that I was experiencing. The ideas were coming, they were there. I still wanted to write, and it wasn't that I'd stopped loving stories. I couldn't wait to sit down with a good novel at the end of the day, my bedtime reading routine. And it definitely didn't stop me from wanting to be a writer. So why couldn't I make myself work on The Rememberers? I genuinely couldn't answer that question. And the harder I tried to force myself back into that manuscript, the more I found myself avoiding it. And if you have ever opened your novel and read the same page a couple of times and then closed your laptop or closed your document and thought, I'll work on it tomorrow, only to do the very same thing the next day and the next day and the next day, then you know how frustrating that can feel. So the obvious diagnosis is, okay, I just need more discipline. I'm just not dedicated enough, or I'm burned out, or maybe I've got writer's block. And sometimes those diagnoses are true. They might absolutely be right, but I don't think they always are, and they definitely weren't for me in this situation. Y'all, this is exactly why I started this Diagnosing the Problem series. Every week, we take a writing problem that feels really frustrating on the surface and then ask whether we've actually identified the right cause. Because if you've ever watched, say, like House or some other medical mystery show, then you know that the first diagnosis isn't always the right one. And if the diagnosis is wrong, it really doesn't matter how good the treatment is. Writing works the same way. If we're solving the wrong problem, we can work so hard and never actually get any closer to the solution. So, the misdiagnosis. When writers fall out of love with a manuscript, I think we often, maybe almost always, reach for one of these three explanations. I have writer's block. I'm burned out. I just need to be more disciplined. Sometimes one of these is exactly what's going on. But here's what I want us to think about today. What if that's not right? What if these are just symptoms? Because that's what they turned out to be for me. I wasn't avoiding writing, I was avoiding that story. And those are two very different things. By the way, if we haven't met before, I'm Melissa Bourbon. I have written more than 35 novels across mystery and magical fiction and women's fiction. And one of the things that I've learned over the years is that stories usually stop working for a reason we don't immediately recognize. That's why I started this Diagnosing the Problem series. Okay, let's talk blueberries. I know, stick with me. This past weekend, my husband and I went blueberry picking with a few friends. It's peak blueberry season here in North Carolina where I live, and we came home with 2-gallon buckets that were overflowing with blueberries. Okay, now if you've watched this channel for a while, you already know that my brain has an annoying sometimes habit of looking at everything through a writing lens. That's the teacher in me. So I dumped all those blueberries on the kitchen counter and I started sorting them. Some were perfect little spheres of blue. Some were a little bruised or split. Quite a few still had little tiny stems attached. And I'm not going to name names, but let's just say that one of us is a little bit more enthusiastic about picking than inspecting. My blueberries didn't have stems or spiders or little bugs. As I was sorting them in the kitchen, it never crossed my mind to think, okay, well, we picked all of these blueberries, so every single one has to go into a pie or into the freezer just like it is. That would have been crazy and frankly kind of gross. So the goal was to make the best blueberry pie. That's what I wanted to do with those blueberries. And somewhere between pulling off the stems and tossing the bruised berries into another bowl or into the garbage, then I was thinking, why am I willing to let go of this bruised blueberry, but I'm not willing to let go of a story that is not becoming the book I want it to become? And that stopped me because I realized that I think we do the opposite with our novels. We become so attached to every single thing that we've written, the outline, the research, the characters, the months or years we've invested, the good scenes, the bad scenes, that we stop asking maybe what is the most important question. Is this still the story that I want to tell? It's a good question. So, what happened in the mountains? Every year, again, a couple of friends and I go disappear into the North Carolina mountains, or one of my friends has a cabin. And we stay there for a few days and we write and we brainstorm and we help each other untangle, plot problems. And it's really one of my favorite weeks of the year because all we're doing is focusing on writing. And there's something so special about sitting around with people who really understand exactly what it's like to live inside imaginary worlds. If you don't have friends like that, you need to find friends like that. So we started the week, we left on a Monday and got back on a Thursday. And I told my friends that I was going to work on the rememberers while we were up there, but that I had been struggling with it. And then I remember kind of hesitating and saying something like, I don't actually think I want to write it anymore. And the second those words came out of my mouth, I knew they were true. And it wasn't because I hated the story. I don't hate the story. Actually, I love the story. I think it's really interesting and could be very impactful. It's about women's history and how it's preserved in this, magical way. But for whatever reason, I wasn't excited to spend the next however many months or maybe a year living inside that particular world. It just wasn't lighting up my neurons. And so I realized that these are two very different things, liking a story and wanting to live inside that story. And I think that's the moment that diagnosis finally became clear for me. I hadn't fallen out of love with writing. I had fallen out of love with that version of story. And that is a huge difference. But here's something that's kind of funny. I was avoiding the remembers, but another story kept percolating in my mind. Different characters. This one's called Willa. Different setting, Outer Banks instead of upstate New York. Different conflict, different magic. So I'd be unpacking books in here. See my bookshelf. I'd be watering the ferns outside. I'd be driving somewhere. I'd be walking my dogs, and that story would pop in my head again. And I kept pushing it aside because I thought, no, I already have the remembers that I'm working on. I thought I was being disciplined, but looking back, I think I was ignoring exactly what I needed to be paying attention to. So while I was in the mountains with my friends, I made a decision that honestly felt a little backwards, given the fact that I had so much time invested in the book I'd been writing and I had so much content for it. But I put the remembers aside. I set it aside. I wasn't going to revise it. I wasn't going to fix it. I was going to let it go, at least for the time being. And I started a completely different novel. That novel became The Seventh Hearth. At least that's the working title for right now. The difference was like instantaneous. I couldn't wait to sit down and write again. I got my mojo back. I was like in the zone. Ideas were coming faster than I could really get them onto the page. And instead of feeling guilty every time I opened my laptop because I wasn't working on my story, I found myself thinking, just one more scene, just one more scene. And that is when I realized something. The excitement hadn't disappeared. I'd just been trying to force myself to write the wrong story. Now, I want to be really careful here because I know exactly what some of you are probably thinking. So, the answer is to quit my novel. No, not necessarily. Every novel gets hard, every single one. I've written more than 3 dozen. 3 dozen? 12, 25. I've written almost 3 dozen. And there comes a point when, in every manuscript, I'd honestly rather do just about anything else. Reorganize a closet. I actually like to reorganize closets, so that's probably a bad example. But let's just say, like, deep clean the bathroom. There are days when writing simply feels like a whole lot of work, and that is normal, right? That's not what I'm talking about. The question isn't, is this book difficult? The question is, am I still excited by what this story is becoming? Am I being lit up by this story? And those, again, are completely different questions. So building this cottage, let me show you a little bit. See? I'll give a better tour later. But building this cottage has reminded me that for months and months and months, it didn't look like very much was happening. It wasn't at the exciting stage. There was framing and electrical work being done and plumbing and insulation and some drywall, but none of those things made for very exciting pictures in my mind. There were days when I would walk in here and I think, oh my God, are we actually making any progress? It looks exactly the same. But then one sheet of drywall went up and then another sheet of drywall went up, and pretty soon I could see that a room I had been imagining was sort of taking shape. And looking back now, I don't think that the electrical work was wasted time because nobody sees it. But without it, there isn't light. There isn't this very cool, where did it go? Chandelier that I found at Habitat for Humanity that actually does light up. We wouldn't have the fan because right now we have no AC. Without insulation, it would be either freezing or baking. All of these things make the cottage workable. And that's exactly how I feel about The Rememberers. I'm not looking at it as a failed novel. I see it as the foundation. It taught me something that I loved. I still love that story. I'm still going to figure out how to use that story at some point, I think. But it taught me what wasn't working. It helped me discover the story I was actually trying to write. And without The Rememberers, I honestly don't think The Seventh Hearth would exist right now in the minimal state that it does. So, before you decide you're burned out or lazy or have writer's block, I want you to ask yourself 3 different questions. The first one is this: if nobody ever reads this book, would you still want to write it? Not because it fits the market, not because you've already spent a year on it, not because somebody is expecting it, but would you genuinely want to spend the next year living inside this story? That is an amazingly important question. Second question: when you think about opening your manuscript tomorrow, do you feel curiosity or mostly obligation? Because obligation is going to get you through some hard writing days. But if obligation is all that's left, you need to pay attention to that because it's not enough to fuel an engaging story. I remember feeling something really similar when I realized I didn't want to keep writing one of my long running mystery series. That decision eventually led me to the Ivy Cassidy persona and to my first Ivy Cassidy book. So you've got to listen to the answers to those questions. At the time, it was really terrifying. But looking back, it was exactly, I think, the right decision. It has inspired me in so many ways to be writing a different kind of a story. And now I'm inspired even more by the seventh hearth. Okay, third question. Is there another story you've been trying really hard not to think about, to put aside? Because, yes, sometimes shiny new ideas are just distractions and you're just going to follow that shiny new toy. But sometimes they're a lot more than that. Sometimes they're trying to tell you that you've discovered the story you actually want to write. And that's huge. You want to go with your instinct there, go with your gut, follow your passion. I honestly don't know whether I'll ever go back to the Rememberers. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. I like to think I will. I still love so much of it, but I don't look at those months as wasted anymore. I look at them as the path that led me to the seventh hearth. And I don't think I could be writing this new novel without first trying to write that one. So if you are wrestling with something similar right now, I hope this gives you permission to slow down before you diagnose the problem, because sometimes an unfinished manuscript is not a failure. Sometimes it is the bridge that leads you to the story you were really meant to write. Okay, this week's homework, diagnostic question. Am I resisting the work or am I resisting this version of the story? Don't answer immediately. Don't answer too quickly. Live with the question for a little while. Am I resisting the work or am I resisting this version of the story? Think about it, journal about it, go on a walk. Your answer may completely change what you write next. And that is, I think, kind of exciting. If it does, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Let me know. Small moments, y'all, shape the reading experience. I'll see you in the next video.
And I would pray for you if I thought it could change your world.